Hey everybody, welcome to the Raspberry Pi Scout Leader training video that we're running for Reunion this year. It's nice to see everybody here. It's a bit different this year. We've got everything running online because of the situation we find ourselves in, but it's really great to have you all here, and I'm sure we're going to get people dropping in and out through the stream as we head along across the hour. And we've got a lot of stuff for you today. I've got my friend here, Ollie, so she works for the foundation as well. How you doing, Ollie?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, well, thank you. Like, it's weird doing this sort of thing, like distributed, right? Like, I'm here, you're there, and everyone else watching is in their own homes and things like that. But
definitely, it's always so nice at Reunion to meet up with all of the leaders, and I'm really sad that we're not being able to do that this year, but it's great to be able to connect with everyone virtually. And
right, yeah, we're still doing it, right? We're still making the thing happen. It's like scouting, right? We're prepared and we've made it work. It's all good. So we've got a bunch of stuff for everyone to do today who are watching. We're going to run you through how the digital making badge works at Scouts. It's a stage badge, and we'll talk you through all that. We'll talk you through who the Raspberry Pi Foundation are and what we do and why we're involved with scouting. And then at the end, we're going to do a really simple and easy activity for you where we just run you through a little bit of how it works in the digital maker badge, and then you can run that for the Scouts in your troop at home. So let's crack on. I've got some slides here that we can bring up so that everyone can see what we're talking about. And we'll just jump forward. So you've already met us. That's myself, Mark, and Ollie. And if you've got any questions or comments or anything like that, just type them into the comments in the YouTube video, and they'll pop up with us, and we can bring them up and talk about them if the questions start coming through. You can also email us at scouts@raspberrypi.org about anything that you hear today, or if you have questions about things that you don't hear today as well, please get in touch with us. We're more than happy to sort of feed back to you and have those conversations as we move on. So, kicking along, a bit about us. So the Raspberry Pi Foundation, our mission statement is to put the power of computing and digital making into the hands of people all over the world. And the reason we do that is so that we can get young people around the world creating and building new things with technology, right? If you do what you've always done, you get what you've always got, and we need new minds, new kids who can use the tools of tomorrow to go out there and produce these new solutions. And we think Scouts are the kind of kids that are already sort of in the context of doing those sorts of things. We do a lot of different projects at Raspberry Pi. So like Ollie, you're involved with both AstroPi and the PiDrop projects that we do.
Yeah, that's right. I look after a lot of programs that we do in partnership with other organizations. So the Scouts is obviously one of those examples. But we run a program called AstroPi with the European Space Agency. And that involves asking young people to write some code that then runs on Raspberry Pi computers that are on the International Space Station. We're actually just about to launch this year's challenge. So Mission Zero, which is part of the AstroPi program, is a perfect activity for Scout groups to do. It takes about half an hour to an hour. And then the code that those young people write in their session can run on the International Space Station, which doesn't get more exciting.
Yes. Yeah. The idea of like a thing that you made running in space, right? And like the project itself is like so scouty as well, right? The idea that you're doing this amazing thing with these other intrepid people that's sort of like at the edge of civilization doing these incredible things.
Yeah,
it's really
cool.
Where
no one's gone before. Yes,
exactly. Yeah, I think Baden Powell would have been interested to see what Scouts is involved with in the 21st century, right? Like we're now sending Scouts and doing stuff in space with code and things like that. It's wicked. And we have PiDrop as well, which is the other one where we're helping get computers into sort of homes of kids that need to do a bit more computer science.
Yeah, so this is a project in response to the lockdown that we have found ourselves in March. We were working with charity partners to help identify kids that didn't have a computer to help, and we donated a Raspberry Pi computer set up to help them stay connected to schoolwork and to their friends and family. And we are hoping to carry that on in the coming months because that's not a problem, sadly, that has been solved in its entirety. So both Raspberry Pi Foundation is about giving people the skills, as you talked about, but also the kit through the computer that we make. Do you have a Raspberry Pi there, actually? I presume you have one somewhere on the shelves behind you.
There's one up here somewhere behind me. Yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah, because for those of our viewers that aren't familiar, the Raspberry Pi is also a computer. We make a small single board computer. There it is. It's because of the reflection. Yeah, that looked quite ghostly. That. It's a low-cost computer that works in a variety of settings and is small enough. It was purposefully designed to be small and cheap enough that if a kid was messing around with it and broke it, they wouldn't get in trouble.
Yeah, which would have been great for me as a kid. I was always breaking stuff. But yeah, so, and that's our thing, right, is we would like to get young people and scouts particularly. So can scout leaders get involved with the PyDrop program? Can they email us and get in touch if they know people that can do that sort of thing? Or
Pardon, what?
scout leaders, can they get in touch with us about PyDrop? Are they okay to email us if they know kids that need stuff at home?
Unfortunately, not at the moment. We're waiting for some more funding to come in. We are talking to the Scout Association about identifying groups that could receive it. People can always email and then we know who they are, but there's no guarantees that would be the way that we distributed them, unfortunately. And as I say, we're waiting for a bit more money to come in at the moment.
Yep, that's always the way.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We had a question that came up about whether the slides would be recorded, or the video would be recorded and the slides would be available later. The slides can be replied.
Yes. We can make them available.
Yeah, great.
That's no problem. We can do the slides, and the video will be sort of hosted on YouTube, and I imagine the scouts will host a copy as well. So we can definitely make it available to everybody. So that's no worries. Thanks for writing in, guys. So a bit more about us. Like, we were founded in 2009. We are an educational charity. So lots of people know the little computer that we make, but that's actually sort of like how do you explain it, Ollie? Like, we're a charity that owns a computer company, right? Rather than the charitable arm of a technology company.
Exactly. So I think we break the mold in all sorts of ways, but we're not the CSR department of a big tech firm. We are a charity that happens to have a quite successful computer company.
Right, and that's it. So we are the sole shareholder of this company that has now sold 30 million units and counting around the world. And so everything that we do with our teaching, even though we make a computer, we attempt to be platform agnostic. So by that, we mean that you shouldn't have to own a Raspberry Pi or even have access to one in order to do the coding stuff that we put together. You can do it on almost any machine whatsoever. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through and look at the badge in a bit more detail. We'll talk about the different sort of agnosticism we adopted in our resources.
And I think that comes from our background as a charity that owns a computer company. We're not in this to sell more computers. We think that the Raspberry Pi computer is a great way to learn the digital skills that we want people to have, but it absolutely isn't the only way. And because we're that charity first, that's why we can invest in lots of different ways of learning those skills. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's like a beautiful segue into what we're talking about now, which is like, what exactly is digital making, right? So we have this digital making badge, and digital making is kind of like an abstract term, I guess. Like, it's a bit hard to get your head around if someone's never sort of explained it to you before. And so essentially it boils down to making things with technology, right? So whether that's coding things, making video games, producing digital art, making robots, designing sort of medical equipment, anything like that. If you're making things with technology, then you're engaging in digital making. And so we have a range of things in the resources as well for scouts that are like not just getting out there and sort of like making machines and doing things like that. We've got a lot of things that don't require any equipment whatsoever except a pen and paper. And we're going to run through one of those activities particularly today. All right. So this one, all you need to understand the bit of computer science and digital making we're doing is a pen and paper. And you can see here at the bottom of the slide that our digital making skills include things that are not just programming and software development, but you can see there's things about community and sharing in there as well. Lots of problem solving. Computer science is a mindset. It's a way of thinking about breaking down problems into smaller abstract parts and then sort of doing those abstract problems to solve the large problem. And then you can see physical computing is the one that everyone thinks digital making is, which is where you're sort of like wiring things together and writing code to make a robot run, which is probably the most exciting part of digital making, I think. Like, it is for me. I don't know about you, Ollie, but I love knocking together a robot or two.
I think I was new to digital making when I came to the foundation. I've always been interested in tech, but I'd never had experience of it. And those aspects of problem solving and community and sharing, I think, were the big revelation for me. Working with you, particularly, actually, I think you've helped me realise how I can see a problem that exists around me, and I might not have all of the skills that I need to solve it, but I have the basis, and then I add to it, and I ask people, and I learn from other people, and then I share what I've learned, and you build on it like that. And I think that fits so nicely with the scouting ethos as well. I think that's really great.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's the big dirty secret of digital making and programming in general, right? Things that nobody tells you is that nobody has all the answers. Like, nobody, even the guys working at the top level of technology, they don't know everything. And most of the time they're asking other people and like checking in places like Stack Exchange and looking on forums to find out the answers they need to sort of like innovate, right? Like, stand on the shoulders of giants. And that's what we want our scouts to be doing.
I never realised how much programmers and people that were really good at tech used Google to find out the
answers. Software engineering, just being amazing at Google. Yeah, and so, but with all that in mind, the idea that we have sort of like we're trying to bring young people forward and getting them with the mindset of like problem solving and creating solutions for the problems around them and being involved in their community with sharing and all those sorts of things, which is why we built the partnership with the Scout Association at Raspberry Pi. Like we want to get involved with sort of the organization that Scouts is. We think gels very nicely with that ethos that we want to be pushing community forward and making the world a better place for everybody, doing that by encouraging and inspiring young people. Yeah. So you can see here's a couple of photos of us in action.
Award-winning.
Award-winning. We just cops that out. Very well done. Yeah, cool. And so now, like, now that you understand a bit more about what we're doing here and why we're teamed up with Scouts and how it's such a great fit, we'll run you through how the actual badge works. So the technical parts of the badge for your Scout group is what we're going to talk about now. And you can see that it's a 5-stage badge, and that was designed flexibly, right, Ollie? Like, we put it together in the sense that it can be flexible among Scout groups.
Yeah, exactly. So along with all of the other all of the other staged activity badges, you can approach it in one of two ways. You can start with low skills from Digital Maker 1 and work your way up to Digital Maker's gone. Is that no? Okay. You can start Beavers tackling, say, Digital Maker 1, and then Cubs doing 2 and 3, Scouts doing 3 and 4, or a combination of those. If you have some Scouts that have the lower skills, you start them on a lower badge number. But we've created resources as well as designing the curriculum. We're going to see in a second all of the resources that we've created, and we've created them with different age groups for different of the staged badges as well. So yeah, it's really flexible.
Yep, cool. And that's, we've got a question coming from Charlie from Harrow. So he's just wrapping up his Digital Maker with some of his Scouts for virtual scouting over summer. That's awesome.
Nice.
That's so cool. Well done there, Charlie. That's awesome, man. Like we'd love to hear from Scout leaders who have attempted the Digital Maker badge sort of in distributed style while we've been in lockdown as well. That's really interesting. Like if you want to email us at scouts@Raspberry Pi, we'd love to hear about your experiences running scouting sort of not in person and how that's worked, because we're looking into those sort of issues now, aren't we, Ollie? Like
Definitely. And I know that the Scout Association in general is thinking about how to sort of support distribute differently run sessions. And I mean, we're biased, but we do feel that digital making really fits into that blended model where sometimes you can meet in person and sometimes you have to meet virtually. But as we know that the community out there is coming up with brilliant ideas of how to do that as well. So yeah, it'd be great to hear from people about how they're getting on and what they're doing.
Cool. So we've got here the objectives for the different staged badges. So you've got stage 1, and you can see that there's got 3 quite clear objectives, things that you need to have your Scouts do in order to attain the sort of level 1 badge. And then the activities are designed around helping them do that. So you can see we've got the compass coding one, which we'll show you the video of in just a little while, which is a video that was designed to help during lockdown again. So you have Scouts run that at home or run it with their sort of like troops while we can't all be together in sort of the same place. And there's also a tech-free version of the compass coding, which is one we show you. And there's one where you can do it online as well. We have the Scratch project, and we'll go through Scratch as well for those leaders who haven't seen it before or aren't quite comfortable with it yet. We'll run through Scratch and how that works as well. And so you can see that the resource, I'll run through this one here. So this is the example of one of the resources that we give out with the badge. So this is the one that we're undertaking today. And you can get to the link for the one that we're running today by going to Scouts Pixel Art here and open up the document. So we'll just leave that up for you. And you can see here the document's got all the things that you expect from a scouting resource. It's got your overview that tells you the requirements it hits. And on the right-hand side here, it shows you like the rough timings, things that you'll need to take into the session. So print the resources before you begin here. We need some gridded paper. And it tells you here that it's flexible. You can kind of do it anywhere that you want. Tells you the things you'll require, and the key messages that you need to get across in your lesson are important here. So we can see there are 5 key messages. These are the things that your Scouts should really be taking away when they leave the session. And hopefully at the end of the session today, these are the 5 things that you'll be taking away from it and understanding about how image representation works on a screen. And then we move down here and you can see we've got these different adaptability suggestions for you. So if you're finding that you're short on time, or you've got some scouts that might need a little bit of sort of educational scaffolding, then you can use these to adapt the project to the kids that are finding it hard or the kids that are finding it too easy. There's suggestions for sort of extension and support there for you to use as well.
And I think that shows the team, the Raspberry Pi Foundation, that have written these resources. We have loads of teachers, we have loads of people that have experience in digital making and running non-school youth activities. And I think that really shows in the resources that we've created. We also have loads of people that were involved in the Scouting movement. And so they know what situations all of the leaders are working in, and what experiences the young people want to have. So they're not, although we provide a lot of sort of framework, it's not obviously intended to be a formal learning activity in a kind of school sense. These have all been created specifically for use in Scouting situations. And I think this one doesn't, but we also show where we link to other badges, because then again, that's been something that's been really important to us as we've been developing the resources, is that digital making in Scouting doesn't just exist in this kind of like rarefied separate world. Digital making has an ability to impact on all sorts of Scouting activities, and so we tried to draw out those links for every.
Absolutely, like the compass coding badge, where we talk about like cardinal points on the compass, and we talk about that being as part of the navigation badge as well. You can use that to cross over, and then you can achieve sort of multiple badges by doing a few different activities. And I think, and then that's really important. And you'll see here, everybody, that the format sort of changes now. And once we get to the blue half, you see up here it says handout in the top right, and this is the half that you give to your scouts. So they have some instructions that they can follow through, very clearly numbered, put together. We've got some diagrams here that explain what we're talking about, and we'll go through these as we run the session today in a bit more detail. You can see we've got some colouring grids for them to have a practice. We've got some interesting trivia bits and pieces, and the kids just work through this sheet with your support and you talking through the major points. And then by the time they've done that, you've got some answers here that they can have a look at and you can check their work. So the whole thing from beginning to end is really designed for you to have a casual conversational session with your scouts where you talk them through the main things, lead them through a fun activity, and at the end of it, they should walk away with some knowledge about computer science. So you can see that's there. Cool. And so we've got our resources for Digital Maker 1 to 5 staged badges. And then once you get to Digital Maker Stage 4, you'll see we have Stage 2, very clear-cut objectives. Stage 3, slightly longer, more objectives. When you get to Stage 4 and 5, you'll see that what we're really doing is we're asking scouts to go away and create a project that solves a problem. So the resources aren't quite as structured. We're hoping that by the time they get to Stage 4 and 5, they either are old enough and have had some experience with computer science, or you've worked them through the early stages to the point where they can take the skills you've taught them, think up a problem they would like to solve, and then go out and do that, right? And then share that in their community and do all those sorts of things, which is exactly what you're talking about before, Ollie. Like, we've designed the upper stages of this to be for sort of like upper level scouts. We're looking at doing it sort of your explorer scouts and up, where they're much more sort of self-directed and doing those sorts of things by themselves.
Yeah, and that could be, and I think the main difference between stages 4 and 5 is that the 4 is about solving a problem that related to scouting, and then 5 is about a problem related to the community, which obviously we know is really important to the Scouting movement in general. And that could be something like, so say for stage 4, it could be something like creating a website for your troop that sort of explains how you meet and what sort of activities, maybe keeping a public tally of the badges that people in the group, depersonalized individuals, obviously for safety, but the badges that the troop is tackling, say, or something like that.
Yeah. And you can find all of the resources for all the badges on the program planning tool, which you can get to. So if you go to rpf.io/scouts-planner, it will take you straight to this Digital Maker Staged Activity Badge page, where you can see all 5 stages of the badge, and you can sort of mix and match the different resources that you want to use while you're running that badge. It recommends projects to do based on which badge you would like to do with your group, how many sessions, and all those sorts of things. Like, it's all completely put together for you. So if you're using the planning tool, it makes it very, very easy to integrate your Digital Maker badge in.
We were just having a look at the planning tool before we went live, and it's the first time that I've really kind of got in depth with it, and it's so impressive. It's amazing. I want it to plan my life.
Yeah, it's super convenient, right? It makes it very easy to do stuff. It just fills in gaps for you. It's nice. Yeah, awesome. And so, as we were talking about before, like being platform agnostic, we really don't want kids to have access to certain tools in order to be able to do computer science. And so you can see here, we have a list of some of the hardware that people can use to do computer science, some of the more exciting, edgy, and maybe expensive equipment that you can use to do it, like especially when you're looking at things like Lego Mindstorms, which can cost quite a lot for a single kit. Whereas like microbits at the other end of the scale, you'll find that lots of your scouts may already have been given microbits. I know that Scouting UK is like working on getting microbits put out to a bunch of different groups, and they're like usually quite easy to access, those sorts of things. And we've been looking at helping scouts as well with doing things with equipment here and there, but it's a tough nut to crack with the equipment.
Yeah, so and this is something that we thought really long and hard about when we were developing the badge, because we know that scouting doesn't happen in offices essentially. So and may not have internet in the scout meeting place. So as you highlighted earlier, we do provide tech-free versions of some of the activities, but we haven't gone down the approach of providing entirely tech-free options, because we think it's important for people to for young people to learn digital skills by accessing digital things and doing digital things. So we always do keep in an element of working with technology, but we've tried to keep the equipment that we're using either commonly available or very low cost, like the microbit. And we've spoken to Scout leaders and provided advice on the Scouts website about if young people are bringing in computers and you don't have internet, what sort of preparations you need to make so that you can run the session as easily as possible on the day. And we've also spoken to some districts about getting centralised kit in the way that you have the canoes that are sort of loaned out across the district, fundraising and purchasing equipment that can then be loaned out and shared across the different groups in the district. And I know that some districts are making good progress towards doing that, but we'd be happy as well to offer advice on what sorts of things to buy and that kind of thing if you email scouts@raspberrypi.org as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, definitely. It's been a tough nut to crack the equipment, I think.
Yeah.
Not so much on the software side, like we were talking about here. So we've got like Scratch, which is what we'll run through today. Python, again, is another very popular programming language for those of you who sort of haven't heard of it before. Or
it's what the Large Hadron Collider runs on. Python.
It sure does. Yeah, it sure does.
It's my top Python fact.
Nice. Yeah. And I like that fact as well. So I like to tell kids that sort of like it runs on everything from like tiny little miniature machines, like little robots that people make, or like one-shot gadgets. It also runs the Large Hadron Collider, which is essentially like a black hole generator under Switzerland. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like we have a few different things, different programming concepts and things in these different bits of software. And like most of these are browser based. So if you do have Wi-Fi, you can use Scratch, you can use Trinket. Basically anywhere you've got an internet connection. You can also download the offline versions of Scratch. So you can have your scouts download that on their machine, bring their laptop and run it on their laptops. And like Ollie was saying before, we also have a lot of tech-free versions of our resources too, just to try and make sure that we've covered all those bases, because we know scouting is a very varied sort of hobby. You can see here that we've got a lot of resources here that we can adapt to run unplugged. You can see that they're also designed for groups, but you can adapt for scouts to complete individually and or at home. And I'll show you the video on the right here in a second, which really sort of demonstrates exactly how you can take those resources and run them at home without any technology whatsoever. And you don't need to use Raspberry Pi projects to earn the DM badge. You just have to cover those objectives. So if you're particularly great at coding, if you love making robots, you can just make up activities. As long as you're getting those objectives across to your scouts, you can say they've completed them and they can have their digital maker badge. You don't have to stick to our structured different activities that we put out there. And so I'll pop that video on for you now, and you can just see this video here is called Compass Coding, and we'll see it how we've organized that to run it offline. So we just had a question pop up. We'll answer that before we go to the video.
Yeah, it was about Pioneers, which was the program that you and I both worked on.
Yeah, we did.
What was that, 3-4 years ago? A while ago. We loved it too, Andrew. We were very proud of it. So the sort of program that fits closest to Pioneers now is Coolest Projects, which is a digital showcase that we do every year for programs things designed by young people. And so this year was the first year that we've run it as a digital only session for obvious reasons. And that has different themes as part of it. It's not themes like we did with Pioneers. We haven't made anyone hide in a basement away from zombies. But there's the same sorts of projects that young people created for Pioneers would absolutely fit into Coolest Projects. And Coolest Projects is open to all scouting groups to submit projects to. What were some of your favourite Coolest Projects things that you saw this year, Mark?
Oh man, some of them were amazing. Like I interviewed one of the kids for the live stream who had made a mindfulness website. So
nice.
So like she'd produced a whole website where you could go and just have like a chill space where there was like, no judgment, and there was like music playing, or you could like play with these little mindfulness games and stuff. I think that was one of my favorite ones. And I also interviewed another young lady on the live stream, and she did the candy catapult. So she made this catapult out of Lego. So two very varied projects, right? Like one of them appeals to my sort of like sense of like, holisticness of technology and looking after yourself through tech. And then the other one was just like, yeah, let's throw candy at like toys. So they're probably my two favorites, to be honest. And I was lucky enough to interview both of those kids on the live stream.
Nice.
Yeah.
One bonkers projects that got submitted this year it was this brother and sister. I think they were in Jakarta in Indonesia, and they tracked the volume of traffic that was coming past their house during lockdown because it was a lot lower, and then they turned it into music. It didn't sound good, if I'm completely honest.
It would have been super random, right?
It was really random. It was so great. The sort of I loved that just completely left field approach to thinking about how your life has changed during lockdown.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's cool.
See the projects that we're talking about on the link online.
So like Digital Maker 4 and 5, right, was designed around the stuff that we learned from Pioneers, I think. Like when we did those Pioneers projects and we knew that the way they were being delivered was in small groups running for a short amount of time, like every week or over a patch of time. And we took everything, Andy, that we learned on Pioneers and we rolled it into Digital Maker 4 and 5. So if you're looking for more Pioneers-y style stuff, if you just get the 4 and 5 guidance and run that with your scouts, they can then submit the things that they make to Coolest Projects. Right? Yeah. And they can get a bunch of recognition. They can join a community of other kids who are making stuff. Like the whole thing was put together on purpose that way.
Yeah, and the judges this year were the founder of Scratch, the founder of Adafruit, the head of the CEO of the Royal Academy of Engineering, Eben, and then Tim. It's just some guy called Tim Peake. It really is like with Pioneers. Sadly, we never got quite that caliber of judges.
Cool. But so we'll show that video now. Thanks for the question, Andy. That was really great, man. And we'll just show the video of the adapted resource now that we did for lockdown, and you can see what we did. Welcome to the Compass Coding Activity video. Raspberry Pi Foundation has partnered with Scouts to create the Digital Maker Staged Activity Badge. The badge has been designed to teach young people how to develop their digital making skills by making things with technology and teaching them skills such as how to solve problems, stick at it when the going gets tough, help their communities, and express themselves. This is the Compass Coding Activity, where you'll need to write instructions for a partner to follow, which guide them around a grid to avoid obstacles, just like you would instruct a computer or robot. To complete this activity, you'll need a pencil or marker, a few sheets of paper, a partner if you have one, an area with a little bit of space, and the activity instructions available from the Scouts website. The first thing you need to do in order to complete the Compass Coding Activity is to set up your navigation area. This can be anywhere there's enough space to move around, such as a lounge room, a back garden. In this case, we've used our driveway. Once you've drawn your grid or organised where your navigation area will be, you should mark one point as the start and another as the finish. This way, your compass coding robot will know where it needs to begin and end its journey. The next step is to place some obstacles in random places inside your navigation area that need to be avoided on the way from the start to the finish point. Before you start creating instructions to program your robot, you'll need to discuss the concept that computers follow very specific instructions, and that we encounter problems when our instructions are not clear enough for the machine to understand. Also discuss the ways that Scouts give instructions when navigating. For this activity, we use compass directions: north, east, south, and west. Now comes the tricky part. You'll need to create a series of instructions on your sheet of paper that your partner can follow to safely navigate any obstacles from the start point to the finish point, using compass directions to indicate which way they should step each time. Next, test your instructions to see if you've navigated your partner correctly through the maze, and fix any errors in your instructions where you go wrong. In coding, we call these errors bugs, and the process of error correction, debugging. Continue debugging your code until you can navigate your partner from start to finish with no problems. This activity fulfills Stage 1 Requirement 3 of the Digital Maker Badge, which is to write instructions that a machine or person can follow to complete a task, as well as Stage 1 Requirement 3 of the Navigator Staged Activity Badge, which is to learn the cardinal points of a compass. The major outcomes for this activity are developing skills for life and problem solving. These skills for life will help you succeed now and in the future while having a lot of fun along the way. This activity helps you to develop your programming skills and to understand how computers, tablets and smartphones work, what they do, and how they process commands and instructions. This activity is mostly about solving problems just like computer programmers do. How did you find the error or bug in your code? How did you fix or debug that code? And how did you come to your final solution? Was it better to use a long route with lots of instructions or a short route with a few instructions? How was it possible to find the bugs in your code before you instructed the robot or your partner to complete them? There are several ways to complete this activity. You don't have to do it in person or with a partner. We also have the online version available at rpf.io/compass, and you can find more information on the activity on the Scouts website. Cool.
I love your sons in that
yeah, they're hilarious.
Particularly the running man.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been watching too much Fresh Prince. That's what it is. That's 100% what it is. But yes, no, everybody watching those boys. And we filmed that video on those really, really hot days this summer. Do you remember it was like high 30s?
I remember it with pleasure, yes.
Yeah, it was great.
I loved it. I know everyone else hated it, but
I was into it, yeah. The boys hated it. They were complaining the whole time. They had to go and like stand in the shade and like watch me like move the camera and stuff. Yeah. So you can see there, everybody, like that was the video that we made for the indoors, the Great Indoors Big Weekender. And so the idea then that you can take that and show that to your young kids and like get an idea of how the different activities work. And so we'll run through one now. So we'll run through the pixel art activity, which is part of the Stage 2 Digital Maker Badge. And so remembering everybody that while we're doing this today, like we're only glancing over the activity. We're not doing the activity in full. We're just going to have a look at it and see how it works, have a go at the different things. And if you have any questions about how any of it goes today, then please feel free to contact us afterwards or type a chat comment in now, and we can get to that as we move through it. So we'll run into the activity now. Whoops, sorry, we'll go back one. Didn't want to go forward there. I'll bring it. So having a look at the activity sheet first, you can see here that the overview here, the activity meets requirement 1 of Stage 2 of the Digital Maker Staged Activity Badge. And the key messages we want to get across to the kids or to yourselves in this activity is that computers always represent things through numbers, which we as adults know, like everything is about ones and zeros and numbers inside computers. But depending on how young your scouts are, you want to have a chat to them about how computers are dumb and can only do the things that you tell them, and they represent everything by numbers. They only really understand numbers. And so computer screens, and like the screens that we're all looking at right now, are made up of thousands of tiny squares in a grid. Okay, so when people talk about a 1080 TV or a 720 TV, they're talking about how many pixels there are in the dimensions of that particular screen. And so when you're looking at the pictures now, it's made up of thousands of tiny squares, and each one of them displays a different color, and that gives you the display that you're looking at right now. And so we want to get that through to the kids and have them know that the computer thinks about that grid in the same way that you think about a Cartesian grid that you learned about in school, where you have like the X and Y axis. It's exactly the same thing. Okay. And so some of your scouts, depending on how young they are, may not have done those grids. Like if you're working with beavers, they may not have done Cartesian coordinates and things at school, but they may be ready to have a look at this. And having a quick discussion about those topics is always interesting with very young scouts, I find, because just to see what their perspective on it is. And we have a stage 1 activity, Ollie, the one that's find computers around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but where you go on a little trek either around the meeting place or out on a walk in the village or town that you're in. Yeah.
I love that one. And like, because it's like there's no assumption whatsoever on behalf of the learner. And like most of these activities, right? It's like we start from the beginning. And that one particularly is like, let's find all the computers in the scout hut. And they're often like boggled to find out that the thing in the corner that like detects the motion, yeah, that's a computer. The thing that opens the door, yeah, that's a computer. Like the watch that your dad wears, that's a computer.
Yeah.
All those sorts of things. Yeah, they freak out about that. And so this is the other thing that they don't really get. Like lots of kids think about this. They look at the display on the computer and they go, well, it just shows me the picture of what I'm looking at. Right. But to break it down for them, and if you have a monitor available or a TV, I really love to let kids get super close to the screen and like have a look. Can you see the gaps between the pixels? Like on a computer monitor, it's very hard, but on like LED TVs and stuff, sometimes you can get that distinction between the pixels, and then like their mind is blown, and forever they just see them as grids of tiny dots.
The opposite of what I was told to do with a TV when I was younger. No.
Yeah. I'm often doing the sorts of things people tell you not to do. I'm not the sort of person that reads the instructions and goes, "Do not use this." You would make an excellent one of those. And so we also say that like all of those tiny dots, right? So those pixels are represented on a grid, just as they would be with your X and Y coordinates. And it's the top left-hand side of your screen. So like up here, I guess, for you guys, top left-hand side of your screen. And that starts at 0, 0, because computers are weird and they always start counting at 0. So they don't start at 1 like we do. 0 is the first ordinal number for a computer. And so all of these things here are in the key messages. And so you and I, just having had this conversation now, Ollie, about it, we've covered all the key messages that we need to get across to the young people. And so now we can start having them practice on the things that they sort of get an idea of. And we've talked about dots on the screen and they're like, okay. And it starts at 0, like that's a bit weird. Like, I don't get why it would do that. But we've got the sheet that they're using. So if you've managed to print the resources or you're looking at them, so while we're having this discussion, these are the questions that you can ask the kids to sort of highlight those things. So where do you see images on computers and what sorts of images do you see, right? And then we can get in close up to the screen and have a look at the pixels, and they can see how the color changes on the thing that you're looking at. And it makes like a really nice interactive experience for the kids to have a go at. And if they're bringing their own Chromebooks and stuff, then they've got a screen ready-made in their lap for them to lean right in against and have a good look at and understand the reality of what the thing is that they're looking at. And we have this grid here that explains to them what I mean when I say computers start counting from 0. Okay, so when we work in school, 0, 0 is the point in the middle. Whereas with the grid we're talking about, 0 is the column of dots that we're thinking about. It's not the gaps between like it is when we do maths at school. It's the column itself. It's the physical column that we look at. And so we can see here the representation of those numbers in the PDF. We can see that 1, 0, so we go across, because we always have to go across to the tree before we can climb up it. That's how I always remember my coordinates and Cartesian bits. So you go across to the tree before you can climb up. So we always read the first number first, okay? So we go across this way, and we have 1, comma 0. So 1, 0 is this one here, 2, 0, and 3, 0, and they're represented on the end. And you can talk through that with the kids. Like, do you get how that works, Ollie?
Yes. It's the starting with 0 that always gets me.
It throws everybody off. It throws everybody off. Yeah. And so, we can see that starts at the top left-hand corner, and that's how we represent images. And so now it's your turn. So if you would like to have a go, you can get hold of the pixel art worksheet, no problem. You just have to go to rpf.io/ where's my Scouts pixel art? That's this one here. And you can get hold of this document so you can have a look at the activity leader materials. But what we're going to go to now is we're going to go to a Scratch page. And so you can reach that by going to rpf.io/pixelgrid. And that will bring you to this page here. So this is Scratch, for those of you who haven't seen it before. And it's a really nice programming tool. It's like a development environment, I guess. It's also considered its own programming language in a lot of circles. And we use it to teach kids how to make things work with code. They clip blocks together and they can make cool things with code. And we'll go through that at the end of this session. But right now, all you need to do is head to rpf.io/pixelgrid and click the green flag. And you'll see it will generate a grid of pixels for you to use, okay, 0 to 9. And then you can just have a go at working through the pixel art worksheet and filling in these to try and get what the picture is. So the first one we've got is 1, 1, 2, 1, 6, 1, and 7, 1. So all I would want to do is go to 1, 1, 2, 1, 6, 1, and 7, 1, and color those dots. And if I click on them, they go black. If you want to get fancy, you can click on them a few times and they'll give you colors. But black and white is about as far as I would normally go with Scouts who are running this. If you wanted to talk about doing different color values, you could extend the activity for higher badge Scouts by talking about the different color values displayed by the pixels. But right now, the pixels are either on and they're black, or they're off and they're white. So as you're going through, we'll just have a look at the next pixel art. So 1, 1, 2, 1, 6, 1, 7, 1, 0, 2, 3, 2, 5, 2, 8, 2. So I'll go here, 0, 2, 3, 2, 5, 2, and 8, 2. We'll click those in. Have another look. 034383.
I've just tried to make the Scouts trefoil. Shall I read it out to you so that you can see how bad my attempt is?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let me just clear my grid. All right, what do you got?
Okay, so 04.
Yeah, okay.
Whoa, I did it the wrong way around. 4, 0. Oh, great work.
4, 0, yeah, okay.
3, 1, 5, 1.
Okay, so 3, 1, 5, 1, yep.
2, 2, 6, 2.
Yep.
2, 3, 6, 3.
Yep.
3, 4, 5, 4.
Yep.
1, 5, 3, 5. No, is that what I meant? Yes. Yeah, 1, 5, 3, 5, 4, 5, 5, 5, 7, 5.
5, 5, 7, 5, yeah.
Did you get 4, 5?
Oh,
no, yeah, 4, 5, yeah. Right, okay. Then 0, 6. 0, 6.
Yep.
2, 6.
Yep.
4, 6.
Yep.
6, 6. 8, 6. Then 3, 7, 5, 7. Then 4, 8. I mean, now that I'm seeing it, it's just awful. 4, 9.
That's cool. It kind of looks like a stick man doing this. He's like, I can see it.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I can see what you're going for. I can definitely see what you're going for. But then, and the beauty of this thing is that if you want to just start again, then I can just clear the grid and
yeah,
clear it up for you. So for everyone watching, like if you've had a go at it, that's cool. Then you can see here, like there's another example for the young people to have a go at. And then if you've printed the blank grids, then you can do what Ollie and I have just done. So we run through the blank grid and you make your own picture and then pass it on to your partner who tries to make the thing that you made. And then so that's basically the activity in a nutshell. That's how we would run through it. You would find a partner and swap, and then they would color in the pictures and make their own different little pixel arts, just to give you the idea, the concept of how a screen works. And you can see here that we have the trivia on the right, and it says, did you know the most common computer screen size that people use, which is 1366 by 768, has 1,049,088 pixels. So it's just something interesting to talk to the kids about, just something that's like a bit of a weird fact. And like that's a massive number for them to sort of get their heads around, especially.
I think that would take us quite a while to draw a picture.
Yeah, it sure would. Yeah. And then, but then there leads into the discussion about how you have a whole program that is dedicated to doing nothing but taking this massive file, right? So if you're looking at a movie file that you would watch over 90 minutes, you're looking at least 2 gig for that file. And that's just ones and zeros telling you exactly how to make those pictures on the screen.
Yeah.
You know, when you consider how many ones and zeros it would require to be running that every 60, so what, 60, let's say 40 frames a second, right? And you're looking at running this many pixels, that many ones and zeros, 40 times a second. Like, yeah, that's a lot of numbers.
So done how you do the coordinates of black and white, how would you communicate the colours? I know you do the RGB values, which are the red, green and blue numbers, say, or would you assign a random number to each of the colours that you can get if you were going to do this with colours on screen?
So you would have a different bit value, I guess, for each pixel. Like you can
okay.
instead of like, it would be 1 to F.
Right, yeah. So like A is blue, B is red, and then you'd say 30B.
Yeah,
So
I guess, yeah. So you
three,
information for each pixel, and then that information will be based on the specific color or the RGB values for that particular pixel to blend, yeah.
I think we've established that my pixel drawing skills are non-existent, so I'm not going to try that with you now for fear of drawing something completely inappropriate.
Sure, okay. And I have seen some really interesting pixel art stuff, like especially when you work in, like there's a program called Pisco app where you can make animated ones, exactly like doing this project, but it's literally for making animated GIFs, and you do get some things that are intentionally dodgy, yeah. So
I love this activity though, because not only does it work, we're in different cities to each other at the moment. This works very well kind of when people are in different physical locations, but also could work just on paper at home as a sort of delayed activity that people do when they're not meeting, but they bring it back the next time they all meet, say the Scouts will meet or something like that. So it's good. It's good fun.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways to do it, right? There's more than one way to skin this cat, like you say. Like you could do it over Zoom, you could do it in person, like you could do it on your own, right? Like and just work your way through the activities. And I think that's the best thing about it. Like it was designed to be as adaptable as you need it to be. You know, like we know that Scouts requires that dynamism in its delivery.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool. Cool. So that's
the Scratch. Because we talked quite a bit about Scratch, but we haven't really explained what it is and shown what it is.
So this project here, anyway, this is one that was knocked up specifically for this live stream, just so that you guys could use the grid resource. But please feel free to use it with your Scouts at home. It's super easy to get to, rpf.io/pixelgrid. It's going to be there forever. Like I'm not going to take it down, and you can use it for this resource. But to look inside Scratch, you'll see how it works. So what I've done is I'll just zoom into my code a little bit so you can see it a bit easier. And we just clip these blocks together in order to make things happen. So you'll see that I've got one sprite here, which is this little square thing. I'll get rid of my pixel.
Yeah.
So I've got my sprite here, which is the white squares that appear. And then my backdrop is literally just the purple square behind. And so when I click the green flag, you see I clear it out. Okay, so the backdrop looks like this. It's got the green numbers. It's got the clicker pixels. So that's almost like the stage that my program happens on. And the only thing that exists inside my program is this little white square. And so I've told it here that when I click the green flag, so when I start my project, I want you to show it to everybody so they can see it, switch to the single costume, because you see I've got different colors where you can make it go different colors by that costume. Go to this position, which is the 0 point on my backdrop, and then repeat yourself. Just keep copying yourself until you get to the end, go down to the next row and continue to copy yourself, okay, until you get to the point. And then whenever you start as a clone, we make it so that you can't move them around. And then if you click it, it will change costume. And just by changing costume, it just makes it go the new color. So you see when I click the green flag, little white square makes 100 copies of itself in the places that I want. And then when I click them, they'll be able to change their little costume. And so that's Scratch.
And all of those blocks. When we were on the front page, that was sort of a finished Scratch project that we were all interacting with. But when you sort of go inside, you click these blocks together to build the program, a bit like Lego. And the resources that we've written for the Digital Maker Stage Activity Badge are a combination of different types of resources like that. So some of them just require you to sort of use the sort of finished product of a Scratch project, and some of them ask young people to click together the blocks to make things happen on the screen.
Yeah, so just like that, basically. So while you were talking, I'll just knock together a little simple thing that will make my cat take 10 steps forward and say hello each time, right? So you just, and that's it, and you can clip those blocks together, and if you just let your kids play with it too, right? So you can have it go, what else can I do to it? I can have it go change the color effect by a random number between 1 and 100. And now, so every time it takes a step, it should change color. Right, and just allowing your kids to play with it and make it do random things like that, right? Like Scratch is very intuitive, and most of them will have come across it at school by now, hopefully. If they haven't, then there's probably something that you need to discuss with the head teacher of the school more than anything else. But that is essentially Scratch and the pixel art activity. So if you would run through that with your scouts, then you would essentially have given them enough of those things to cover those objectives for the badge, right? Do 1 or 2 more activities and you can give them their Digital Maker Stage 2 badge.
Yeah.
And that's the whole idea, you know, to be
and
that.
For less confident leaders that haven't used Scratch themselves before, we've got a guide to using Scratch online on the Scouts page on the Raspberry Pi page of the Scouts website. And I think some leaders, again, confidence. We know that confidence in tackling digital making projects is real. Lack of confidence. So I think we would just like to encourage those that are less confident. If you are worried that the young people are going to know more than you, that's okay, because they can then help each other. That going back to this idea of the importance of community to digital making, it's not about people working on their own. It's about young people helping each other. So if you don't know the answer, you can throw it open to the whole group and see if there is someone that does, and everyone can learn together. It doesn't just have to be you on the spot solving all of the problems.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. And we just had a comment coming from Jo Baines-Clark saying she's looking at the Creator Campsite worksheet, which is really good. And that's like a nice one about, again, looking at pixels, but the Creator Campsite is all about digital art and asking your kids to sort of make a fake campsite, like inside Scratch, with different parts inside it. So there's a tent and a scout and a sun and a sign, and they can click on those, just like I was changing the costumes on my blocks, and they can change them to different things. And we ask them to make a new costume and then alter the scene. And that's a really nice, simple introduction to sort of like messing around with paint tools and things for young kids. We find that's a very popular one, Creator Campsite, actually. And so from here, I guess it's just how can you then take the Digital Maker badge and run with it in your troop or locally to you. Do you want to take that one, Ollie? Do you want to just let everyone know?
Yeah, I do. So we hope that the things that we've shown you today just show how achievable it is to run a Digital Maker badge session with your section, and that can mean if and when you're able to meet in person, but also when you're meeting virtually, or if you're meeting in a kind of time staggered way, you can send them some of the links that they can try on their own and then report back whenever you do get to next meet. I hope also that we've shown you how digital making, even though it might not meet people's traditional expectations of what scouting is, that it is something that is relevant to the scouting movement, and that you can help build, spread that message with other leaders in your district, in other groups local to you, because we genuinely think that the skills that young people will be learning through taking this badge are a key part of the skills for life that scouting is all about. I hope that we've built your confidence, and that we can that you can then help build confidence in other leaders to tackle these as part of their sessions. We haven't talked yet about young leaders, but obviously they can be a fantastic, particularly if you're lacking in confidence yourself, they can be a fantastic way of tackling the Digital Maker badge in your section, because they may have more confidence than you, and it's a great opportunity to let them shine. We've got there's more ideas on the Raspberry Pi page of the Scouts website about how to get practical digital making going in your meeting place, on your camp. I don't know if anyone's ever actually shown us that they've done this, but we've often talked about creating a digital aspect to a wide game, for example, using RFID tags. Actually, that was a previous Pioneers project where you used RFID tags to sort of tag into different places. So there's loads of different ways that you can use digital making in outdoor activities. It doesn't just mean sitting in front of a computer. And we'd love to hear what you're up to through social media, through from emailing us, but also sharing with each other, sharing within your group, within your section, within your district, the digital making activities that you've done. And although they're not meeting in person, our global networks of clubs can also support your digital making work. So Coder Dojo is our network of clubs that happens outside of school, and those can be a great resource for you to find people experienced in tech that can help you. A good place to point young people if they've got the bug for forgive the pun, got the bug for doing digital making. And that can be a great place for them to develop their skills even more, and then feed that back into your scouting sessions, and get the next generation of scouts into it as well. So there's loads, and I really hope that we've helped convince you that it's something that you can do.
Yeah, me too. And like as Ollie was saying, I just want to reiterate to everybody watching that we're here to support you as well. So email us at scouts@raspberrypi.org if you're interested in running the badge, or you've got questions, or you're not quite sure how it might work in your context. Get in touch with us. We're here to support you. We'd love to hear from you. In fact, if you've got some interesting problems you might like to get us to help you solve, then that's what we're here for, and that's why we have the partnership with the Scouts. So thanks for coming along today, everybody. It was really great to have you. I hope, like Ollie says, that we sort of allayed some of your fears and gave you a bit more confidence in running the Digital Maker Badge in your own Scout group. And yeah, hopefully we'll hear from you all soon. So we'll catch you later. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody, and enjoy Reunion. We'll see you later.
Have a great reunion, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.